for Ohio's 529 plan. I want to thank you all for being here today. And before we get started, I do want to introduce our speakers. First, we are joined by Tim Gorrell, the Executive Director for the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority, the state agency that oversees Ohio's 529 plan, CollegeAdvantage. Tim has been with the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority for 6 years now, overseeing our staff, overseeing our operations, our various departments. And Tim came to us with a deep background. He's a retired military colonel and a deep background both at the state and federal level before he came to us in 2015. And he will be representing Ohio's 529 plan during the course of our conversation. And we're also joined by Aaron Warman. Aaron is an AVP with Fifth Third Bank, financial center manager, and also their product development manager. And Aaron will be representing Fifth Third Bank today to join all of us as we answer the questions all about 529. So with that, Tim, I will turn things over to you.
Thank you, Ben, and good morning again, everyone. We really appreciate you joining us today. If you're new to the 529 business, we trust that this presentation will be informative to you. If you are involved in a 529 plan, hopefully this will reinforce your decision to remain engaged in a 529 and continue your savings and investments. September is College Savings Month, and it's an opportunity to invite attention to just that, to saving and investing for education expenses after high school. Ohio's 529 plan, CollegeAdvantage, has been around for over 30 years. In 1989, the Ohio General Assembly passed legislation establishing a guaranteed savings plan for Ohio residents to save and invest for education expenses after high school. And in 1990, our agency began selling its first units and credits. In the mid-90s, federal legislation was established which made 529 plans what they are and what we see today. It was a bipartisan effort. The sponsors of this legislation were Senator Bob Graham and Senator Mitch McConnell, two familiar names, especially Senator McConnell. Between 1996 and 2000, 30 states had established 529 savings plans. So as we move on, we're often asked the question, what is a 529 plan? But I think the question to start with is why a 529 plan? Student loan debt is the enemy here. That debt has risen to $1.6 trillion, $1.6 trillion in our country. And the average loan debt for an individual coming out of their education opportunity is in the neighborhood of $38,000, close to $40,000. So what does this do? You pick an education opportunity that you're excited about. You've worked hard to get that degree, the certification. You're coming out to an exciting career, but only for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you're strapped with debt. And this often influences retirement savings. As you're going down the line, maybe you want to start a savings plan for your children in a 529. You put off maybe getting married, buying a home, it's any of a number of life's decisions. So we submit a better way is to save and invest beforehand. Now, you may not be able to save all of it. You may have an objective to save some of it, part of it, but the important thing is to have a plan. Now, 529 plans, as I mentioned, are nationwide. Every state, with the exception of Wyoming, has a 529 plan. And the rules are generally universal for these plans. It'll vary from state to state as far as what the offering is. Many states have a direct plan. Others offer an advisor plan. We'll talk in a few minutes about banking products. Not every state has a banking product that they offer. But there's a wide range of it, and the rules are generally universal. You're not limited to the state that you're investing in to only pursue education opportunities in that particular state. So moving on, talk specifically about Ohio's 529 plan. Ohio's 529 plan is among the best in the country. And obviously, you're going to say, well, yeah, you're the executive director of Ohio Tuition Trust Authority, and of course, you're woefully biased towards that. Well, it's just not me saying so. We are the 7th largest 529 plan in the country, and various agencies, industry watch groups or firms, have validated that Ohio is a good plan. In saving for college ratings and 10-year performance, we're the best performing plan in the nation. And we like to point that out because we're not a flash in the pan. There's times that investment portfolios are chasing the latest flavor of the day, so to speak, and moving around their portfolios. Our portfolios are deliberately crafted to withstand market turbulence, and certainly in the past year, there have been ups and downs, and with the market. But just to make sure that plan remains steady and is continuously growing. We have over $16.3 billion of assets under management and over 671,000 accounts. That's collectively between our direct advisor plan and our banking products and what's left of our guaranteed plan. I share this not to wow you with big numbers and for you to say, wow, but what that does is the plan's assets under management and the number of accounts they have, as that grows and increases, that gives the plan the opportunity to reduce fees. And that's what's vitally important to have the lowest fees possible and the best return on the investment going forward. Ben mentioned a little bit about my background. I am the executive director here. However, I'm not the person here in downtown Columbus making the decisions about our investments. There's a very deliberate process. Our partners in our direct plan offering is Principal Partners Vanguard. We also, in our direct side, Dimensional Fund Advisors is one of our partners, and of course, Fifth Third Bank. In our advisor side, BlackRock is our principal partner. Our consulting firm is a company called Wilshire, a firm called Wilshire. And so any decisions that we make are collectively between our partners and our consultants, but then the ultimate decisions of our investments is an 11-person fiduciary board, investment board, that established by Ohio code and oversees our investments and makes all the ultimate decisions about our investments. 4 of the members of our investment board are members of the General Assembly, and 6 of them are appointed by the governor. One of those 6 is the Chancellor of Higher Education. All the members need to have banking, finance, investment background. This is a very robust board, a very deliberate board, and we're very, very pleased to have a board of the caliber that we do and directing our investment decisions. So what are some of the other ways to save? There's a lot of them out there, and the traditional bank account, traditional investments, gifting to your children, borrowing from retirement accounts. Any of these are options, and in light of going the loan route, having a plan of some sort is a good way to go, and that's what we would urge and encourage. However, 529 plans, are a better way. And so why is that? And for the next few slides here, I'd like to talk about a few ways that we believe that they are better. First off, taxes. Any way you can get around reducing your tax obligation is a benefit. 529 plans are after-tax dollars that are invested in stock market options. They grow tax-free, and whenever they're withdrawn for qualified expenses, there is no tax implication. This slide depicts an example of the compounding power for tax-free growth. And you may not see this type of growth in some of those other options that we talked about in the previous slides. Now, this projection is based on a $2,500 per year contribution into a 529 plan over 18 years and assuming a 5% return. And you can see it's a pretty big difference as far as what your money could grow into utilizing a 529 plan. So what can you use your 529 plan for? what are those qualified expenses, and you're not going to involve a tax implication. Tax-free withdrawals can be used to pay for tuition and fees, room and board, books, computers, or any related equipment or services directly linked to that education program. So if you withdraw your money for those things, there's not a tax implication. Moving on then, what are some of the other things you can use your 529 plan for? Recent legislation, this is in the last 2, maybe 3 years, provided that you could use your 529 funds for K through 12 education. This is up to $10,000 per beneficiary per school year. Realizing K through 12 is not after high school education expenses, but the federal language and federal law has expanded that to include that provision into the 529. You can also use up to $10,000 to pay back on student loan debt. And that's a one-time or up to $10,000 per beneficiary. You can also use your 529 to use for use to pay for apprenticeships. Next slide, please. We're often asked, and I alluded to this at the beginning of our conversation, as to limitations on 529s or assumed limitations that people have. You can use your 529 in any state. Any education entity that has a federal code, you can use your 529 funds for. And this can be a 4-year college university, 2-year community college, trade schools, technical schools, certificate programs, apprenticeships, which I mentioned, graduate schools. And while we would like people to choose Ohio's 529 plan to save and invest for those education expenses, pursue an exciting education opportunity here in Ohio, come out on the other end to a great job, a great career, live, work, and thrive in Ohio, that's not always the case. But when you shop around, and hopefully it'll lead you to the Ohio's 529 plan, and should those education goals, objectives take you out of state, you can feel confident that you can use your 529 funds in those other places. Specifically, as you're looking at a 529 plan, look at your state's tax advantages. Going back to that taxes. Here in Ohio, you can take up to $4,000 per year per beneficiary off your Ohio taxable income. If your contributions go over $4,000, that's not a ceiling. You can certainly contribute more to your 529 plan. You have unlimited rollover into subsequent tax years to take advantage of this tax deduction. Not every state has a tax benefit. This is for Ohio residents who invest in Ohio's 529 plans. And so it's certainly worthy of consideration as you're considering what 529 plan to choose to save and invest. Next slide. I touched briefly on our plans. We have a direct plan and an advisor plan, and there's also the banking products. These are some of the highlights of those plans. And at this point, I'd like to turn over to our partner, Fifth Third Bank, Aaron, to discuss some of the banking options.
Hi, thanks, Tim. Fifth Third Bank has been really proud to partner with the Ohio Tuition Trust Authority to offer really best-in-class FDIC insured savings options for our 529 plans. I believe we were the first 529 plan to come to market with FDIC options that really allow any risk tolerance to determine where they want to put their money. If they are a more conservative investor, they can put it in a CD, they can put it in a savings account. If they would like more potential risk, more potential return, there's options for that as well. So really making sure that we meet the needs of all of our savers, if you will. We currently offer 2 FDIC insured plans, or I guess accounts within the plan. One is a savings account that can be opened up with just a $25 minimum opening deposit. And then the other is a CD that can be opened up with a $500 minimum opening deposit. All of these accounts are opened up through the CollegeAdvantage website. All of the servicing takes place through the CollegeAdvantage website. And really when we set out to design the accounts, if you will, when we were first getting started, one of the guiding tenets for us is that we wanted to make sure that we were providing above market rates, that we were providing an incentive to 529 customers for that savings and that CD. And what that means to you is that monthly, Fifth Third Bank goes through an exercise to evaluate both our internal competition and our external competition. So that means we look at what we are paying on our savings accounts and our CDs, as well as what our external competitors are paying on savings accounts and CDs, to ensure that when we are setting rates for our 529 account holders, we are staying above those market rates, both for us and for the external competition as well. There are no enrollment fees, there's no annual fee, so all of that just means lower cost to you and thereby greater returns. I mentioned briefly all of the servicing is completed through the CollegeAdvantage website. If you happen to be a Fifth Third account holder, your accounts are visible online when you log into 53.com. However, they are not serviceable within the financial center. So all of those transactions go through CollegeAdvantage, and then we leverage our partnership on the back end to make sure all the money flows and goes where it needs to go, and then you have all the reporting that you would need. So that's a little bit about the deposit products. Tim?
Thank you, Erin. And just to add about the other options, as Erin noted, with the banking products, that's the same for the direct and advisor plans that we offer. The minimum contribution is $25. The max contribution that increases each year. This year it is up to $501,000. In our direct plan, there are 24 investment options to choose from. Most popular is age-based, which works much like a retirement account. You have a target date for the beneficiary in the out years, and then your investments tend to be more aggressive in the beginning part of that investment timeline, and then they become more conservative as you get closer to that date. We also, I mentioned that we have advisor. If you choose to work with your financial advisor, you can invest in CollegeAdvantage, BlackRock 529 plan. There are 21 investment options in that space. So we're often asked how to start your plan, and a lot of times it can seem, well, we'll wait until to get started. Ideally, the best time to start is whenever a child is born, and that's ideal. Start that savings, and it's obviously unclear of what that child's going to do when they finish high school. Are they going to be a welder? Are they going to be a plumber? Are they going to be a doctor, an accountant, a teacher? You don't know. But I think a fundamental assumption is that there will be some sort of training, education after high school, and to a program or that education opportunity, there's going to be some associated expense to it. And so it's ideal to start saving early. Again, the enemy is student loan debt. So many people rely on loans to pay for these educational expenses after high school. And so we urge and encourage to start saving early, realizing that's not always the case for people. Life gets away from us, and before we know that our child, our grandchild, that beneficiary is going off to kindergarten or even to middle school or maybe even to high school. And like one of our partners likes to say, in fact, it was Fifth Third likes to say, is when was the best time to plant a tree? Well, that was 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. And so we encourage you, if you haven't started, to please start. And if you have started, stay with it, because in the long run, it will come out to your benefit. And again, look at it. You can be conservative in starting. Maybe you're thinking of a in-state school. You want to save a quarter of it or 40% of those savings, and then you start. And I think as time goes on and you increase, and maybe that you start out with that $25, $50, $100 contribution, and then as things change in your life and your economic situation, you may increase that. And then I think you would also be encouraged by the performance of your investments. So we're often asked another question. A lot of questions are asked of us, is how does this affect, or 529 savings affect my eligibility for federal financial aid? I have to say that it's minimal, and it depends on who owns the particular account. Obviously, if a parent's owning the account, it's going to have the minimal effect on any financial aid considerations. If it's a custodial account, you can see here we note UTMAs, UGMAs, or if it's a student loan account, these could have more effects, and even a grandparent-owned account could have more effects on that. Does a 529 affect eligibility for financial aid? And I think what you have to look at is what exactly is federal aid. Federal aid isn't always free money. In fact, if you qualify for a Pell Grant, that's capped right around $6,000 or just over $6,000 per year. So now that helps pay for some education expense. There's these funding for the aid or for the education is going to have to come from somewhere else. And a lot of times these are maybe low interest loans or items that do need to be paid back. So what's the bottom line? The FAFSA can be daunting. I want to add a point on that too. It's I think somewhere up around 108 questions like that, and there is federal legislation that's on the cusp of being law that will significantly reduce that to like a 30-some question questionnaire and take a lot of this bureaucracy out of it, so to speak. So help is on the way as far as submitting the FAFSA. But right now, the FAFSA, the effect on a parent-owned 529 is 5.64%. So what that means is, say you have $10,000 that's being counted in your FAFSA calculations, and how much would that affect student aid? It could have only $564 in that calculation. So full $10,000. Obviously, if $20,000 you double, it's around $1,000 that would be factored into those considerations for financial aid. And so that's a very important fact to remember, that having a 529 doesn't put you at a great disadvantage for financial aid considerations. What if your child doesn't attend college? That's another popular question. So you start early, you're saving, and maybe other resources come into play for the savings, for paying for these education expenses. Well, the thing to remember about 529 plans is they don't have a shelf life. Whenever an individual turns 18, or when they turn 28, or you have to use them by a particular age, 529 plans can go on indefinitely. And so maybe the education opportunity doesn't come immediately right after high school. Maybe it comes a little bit later, a few years later. Or maybe the initial education opportunity is taken care of or isn't as costly that you want to tap into your 529 account to pay for that. But later on, more higher education is the decision that the beneficiary makes to go into. This might be an MBA or maybe even a different career path. These funds are still there, and they're growing as far as with the stock market. However, if you would come to an opportunity, or you decide that the child's not going to college, I'm not going to use it, we're going to pull that out. The penalty, so to speak, is that you would go back and you would pay taxes on your earnings. If you recall, 529 plans are after-tax dollars that are invested. So the money that you invested, you'd already been taxed on. You're not taxed on that. You're taxed on your what you've earned on that account. And then also you'd be subject to a 10% penalty because you're pulling it out for unqualified expenses. The part we talked about with the financial aid, what if your child receives, or the beneficiary receives, a grant or a scholarship? Again, there's no shelf life on the 529. This can complement whatever the expenses are. Rarely does a scholarship pay for everything. Less than 1% of the scholarships awarded pay for everything. And when I'm saying everything is that tuition and fees, room and board, books, those expenses or, and computers. So even if you are the beneficiary of a scholarship, which is great, or you do have some other grant monies that are coming into play or other resources into that, rarely are they going to pay for those other things. Maybe they're paying for tuition and fees, and that's great if you don't have to worry about that. But what about living expenses? What about books? What about computers? Those things that come into play. And so a 529 can complement these other resources if they do. Should you be fortunate enough to go to a service academy, the beneficiary does, or that these scholarships are paying for a part of it, you can withdraw up to that amount from your 529 plan without penalty. Remember in the last slide, I said that if they're used for unqualified expenses, there's a 10% penalty. If scholarships come into play, the penalty will not, and you're withdrawing up to that amount for the scholarships, you're not going to have incur a penalty, but you will have to pay tax on what you earned on those gains. And so, we talked about the mobility, so to speak, of 529 plans. It's great because so you open this account for a beneficiary, maybe your child, maybe your grandchild, maybe a child that you're, a niece, nephew, or whatever the case may be, and they don't use it. And you want to move some of this money around. Maybe it's to a younger child, maybe it's to another grandchild, maybe it's to another family member. Very broad definition as far as 529 goes, as far as what a family member is. It can be those common ones that be another child, immediately, a grandchild, but it could be a first cousin. Again, niece, nephews, anything in there, you can transfer your 529. You may take part of those funds and transfer them, or you may just outright transfer the whole account to another family member. Very easy to do that. I'd like to talk just briefly about gifting. This is a popular option, and we hear from parents and grandparents alike that children have a lot of things. And while a 529 contribution for a young child may not elicit the joy or glee that the latest widget or gadget may ensue in a gift, it's a terrific gift. It's a legacy gift, whether grandparents are gifting or any other family members. And for those significant events, birthdays, graduation, holidays, any achievements, again, it's very easy if a beneficiary has a 529 account. We have a platform called UGift. Very easily, you get a code from the account owner, and you can contribute to the college savings fund. The benefit in that too is not only are you contributing a living legacy to some child's education, future education, but also you can take advantage, if you're an Ohio resident, of the tax benefit. And so whatever you contribute, $100, $150, whatever the case may be, up to that $4,000 mark, you can also deduct that from your Ohio taxable income. And so great benefit in that. We also have gift cards if you choose to go that route, that you can send a card along communicating to that beneficiary that a gift has been made on their behalf. And this slide shows how easy it is to do gifting. Of course, you can do this online, and very easy process, very user-friendly to do so. And so we come to the end of this last slide here that I have. I'd like to invite you to some resources that we have. Notably, our webpage, CollegeAdvantage.com, is a tremendous resource. You may be figuring, have some savings into place. I had an account owner asked me recently, they had savings in their 529 account. They're looking at a particular school that they think the beneficiary is going to. They want to know if they had enough saved or they're on the right track for savings. We have a calculator. You can pick a specific school if you want. If it's the Ohio State University, Ohio University, any of those schools nationwide that we said that have a federal code, and you wonder how much is that going to cost? You factor in the age of the beneficiary into that. You can have it calculate tuition and fees, or to combine tuition and fees, room and board. This is all easy to do on that, and to give you a sense of what what your savings is doing, and what if you're on track of how much you want to save. You use your search engine, search for Ohio 529. It should take you to that. But again, that website's CollegeAdvantage.com. We have a call center, and I will say again, this is my bias, but this is true. I think it's the best call center, customer service center in the country. You can call us. Our operations personnel are on the phone from 8:30 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we cannot give you financial advice. We are precluded by law from doing that. But certainly, if you have questions about opening an account, you have questions about 529 savings, our folks can help you navigate those questions. A lot of times our customers, our clients, will be investing for all these years. It comes time to start calling on those funds and making those payments for those education expenses. We can assist you with that. So please call us, 1-800-AFFORD-IT, and we'll be happy to talk to you about 529. I've listed other options here, resources to help you in this journey and to answer these questions. Again, emphasizing the point, have a plan, start forming your plan as soon as possible. You will not regret it. I use a personal anecdote. Our children were born in 1992, 1993, respectively, and these plans weren't around at that time. So we had that expectation that our kids will be doing something after high school, and so we opened mutual funds. And we were very deliberate and very disciplined as they got older. We never rated those for anything else. And again, we started modestly, as I'm recommending to you to do now. And these plans grew, and we achieved the objectives we were looking for. There were some scholarship and other monies that came into play, and fortunately, both our children were able to graduate from college debt free. And but the point on that is, along the way, we paid on the taxes on the gains. We paid on the dividends taxes. When we withdrew those funds to use them to pay for the school, we paid taxes. And 529 plans would have been a much more efficient and way of doing that. But nonetheless, however you get to that end state, to do that. One last thing I'd like to add is I was talking to a person recently, and just about this that I'm speaking to you about having a plan. And he had rental properties. And I said, well, what's your plan? He has a teenage son. He goes, I'm going to sell one of my rental properties, and that's going to cover the expenses. And then for dating myself a bit, the musician Greg Kihn, I went to a concert of his pre-COVID, and he may be familiar with a very popular song of his called the Breakup Song. And before he started this song, he goes, "This is the song that put my grandkids through college." And so, you may not have rental properties, you may not be a musician, an author, stuff like that, but the important thing is to have a plan. And if you're not in those categories, I invite you to a 529 plan. And before we get to the question and answer, I would like to play a short video, 30 seconds here, that I think encapsulates what we've been trying to talk to you about this morning here. Shrikant, are we running the video?
A happy dance can mean so many things, like school started and you're learning and playing and loving life with friends. It can also mean you finally made the switch from a typical savings account to Ohio's 529 plan, and a whole bunch of student loans vanished from your future. When it comes to saving for college, Ohio's 529 plan is the plan that can give you the tax-free growth potential you need and the nationwide flexibility you'll want. Learn, plan, and start at CollegeAdvantage.com.
Thank you. What we'd like to do now with the remaining time that we have will be, Aaron and I would be happy to answer any questions that our audience has.
Tim, we have a couple of questions for you. The first question is from Lewis, and he'd like to know, how do you know who owns the account?
As far as the account owner, I assume that what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, typically whenever a family opens up an account, whether it's grandparents, parents, or whomever opens the account, they can communicate that to family and friends that that one, they open the account for this child, and I assume if you're getting it with the the gifting. And a thing I'd like to add about account ownership and a benefit of 529s as compared to other things is the account owner is the owner. The beneficiary is just that, the beneficiary to the account. But some of the other savings, whenever a beneficiary becomes of age, say they become 18, the intention of this savings was for education expenses after high school. But the beneficiary may say, I'd like to take some time off. I want to go backpack Europe or do something else or travel the country. And by law, whenever they become of age, that becomes their resources. But in a 529 account, the account owner owns the account for the life of the account and makes all the decisions as far as those distributions and as far as what what that's going to be used for. I hope that got at your question, Lewis. And if not, we'll be happy. Please email us or let us know. We'll be happy to elaborate on that.
Okay,
So
thank
Tim,
you.
would the account owner be the person that opened the account? Like I could open an account for my son and I could tell my parents or whoever to contribute to that, but I'm the owner, my son is the beneficiary.
That's correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as we talk about ownership, there is a question that says, what happens if the owner dies?
Very good question. Unfortunately, you have to prepare for those unfortunate circumstances should they come, and like many investments or legal documents, or as far as control of resources that a family have, it's imperative if you open a 529 account and or if you have one now, designate a survivor that's going to take over that account in the unfortunate and hopefully unlikely circumstances that the account owner would pass on. You very clearly, and that becomes law. And so if the account owner would pass away, then whoever that designated person is would take over the account ownership and all the decisions that are to be made with reference to that account.
Another question that came in said, is there a penalty for transferring to another person?
No, that is not, you're not penalized for doing that. If that's going from, one 529 account to another, there's no penalty incurred on that, or, or a taxable event that comes into play. As far as changing your accounts, you should keep in mind that you can have 2 changes per calendar year. So you can't be moving around and hopping investments, so to speak. And so you need to consider all that into making decisions regarding your account. But those do not incur a tax liability or penalty.
Okay. Caroline asked the question. She says, we've saved $10,000 for our daughter's college in a regular savings account and are planning on opening a 529. Would it be better to open it with $4,000 and contribute another $4,000 in January to take advantage of the tax benefit?
As I said, I'm precluded from giving advice, but to facilitate information, that is a plan. Certainly you could do that. Again, to remind you, the tax benefit here in Ohio is per tax year up to $4,000. It can be put into a 529 and per beneficiary. So if you have 2 accounts and you're doing $4,000 to each of them, you can take up to $8,000 off your Ohio taxable income. Again, that's per calendar year per beneficiary. If you did the whole amount, you could roll it over into the next year if you wanted to do that. A lot of you might want to talk to your tax advisor, for specifics on that. But that's a good way to think. You know, you're about the best way to manage your investments and to put those in. But $4,000 per beneficiary, unlimited rollover should you go over that in a given calendar year, tax year.
A question for Aaron. It says, they heard what you said about CollegeAdvantage handling the operations for the savings account, but can we get information in the branches?
From the branches, I believe the only thing that they can see is that the account exists and maybe the balance. So really the best place that you can go to receive any information is going to be that CollegeAdvantage website.
Okay. Tara says, thank you, Aaron. Taryn says, I've been investing money for the last several years for my son's education and will only use the funds for his education. Since I did not do so in a specific Ohio 529 plan, is there any way I can use the funds to pay his tuition without paying taxes?
So is she invested in a 529 account? Could you clarify that again, Judy?
No, she's not. It just says that she's been saving money and says that she didn't put it in Ohio's 529. So she wants to know, can she use the funds to pay tuition without paying taxes?
No, that's the situation I described that we were in, because we did have mutual funds for our children's education, and when we withdrew that and used those for those expenses, that it was a tax event. Any investments, they have to be specifically identified as 529 accounts, 529 savings accounts, and whether that be through the direct plan, advisor plan, or the banking products that Aaron described, that is the key for that to be a tax-free event, so to speak. So very good that you saved, and you would not regret that savings, but unfortunately, unless those funds are in a 529 account and you pull out of that, then you're going to be subject to taxing.
Okay.
If the child is not already in college, could they open a 529 and begin to move funds into it?
Yes, that's an option. Mm-hmm.
We have a question from Matthew. Matthew says the Ohio 529 seems more advantageous to people who live in Ohio. I live in Illinois. Why would the Ohio 529 be better for me than the Illinois 529?
We would love to have you here. And we would welcome you trusting us with your investments and savings. But your state has a fantastic tax benefit for its residents, and that's, as you're assessing 529 plans to invest in, that's a thing you want to consider to look at. Comparing on that is fees that you're going to pay, and will that offset any tax advantage that you may have investing in your state's plan. But Illinois has a very, very generous tax benefit for its residents, and I hate saying this, you probably would come out ahead investing in your state's plan, but gosh, we would welcome you to our plan if you wanted to have another 529 plan, which I'd add, you can have several 529 plans. We have clients that maybe opened a plan in one state and then moved to Ohio, or for whatever reasons they like our investment lineups, and they'll keep in another state and open in Ohio. There's no limitation on that you only have to be invested in one plan. But thank you for tuning in here, and thank you for that question.
Okay. Another question says, if the grandparents are out of the United States, can they transfer money directly in a 529 account?
You have to talk to a tax advisor, financial advisor on that, because in all investments, there are rules governing as far as out of the country, both money's coming in and going out. And so you'd have to talk to a financial advisor or a tax advisor, as far as what those rules are and whether you could do that or not.
Okay. Paul has a question. Paul says he lives in Ohio now. He's thinking of joining the plan, but he's concerned because he wants to know what happens if he moves to Illinois within the next couple of years. However, he won't need to use the money for another 10 years or more. What can he do?
I think we might have lost Tim.
I think we
And-
lost him.
Oh,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe
back.
that might fall under the thing where you could have multiple plans. So you might want
Yes,
to, at that point in
yes.
time,
yeah,
open up an Illinois plan.
sorry about that. I'm back here.
So your Ohio plan can remain.
Yeah, this is the reverse from the person that asked and is tuned in from Illinois. I hope that you will trust us and open a plan with us. And if you do that, that's fine. If you move to Illinois, you can roll over your funds from Ohio's 529 to your new states if you want to do that. Or like as Aaron just suggested, that you can leave it here in Ohio, and then when you go to Illinois, open a plan there. So there's a lot of flexibility on that, and I would recommend not letting that paralyze you, from starting your savings and investments, because you'll be able to, a lot of flexibility into continuing those savings and investments.
Okay. From Angie, she asked, are non-account owner contributions tax deductible?
In Ohio, as with the gifting, and again, if you're from another state, look at your state's rules, as far as this. But in Ohio, if an Ohio resident contributes to an Ohio 529 plan, either in the direct side or the advisor side, or to the Fifth Third banking product, you can take that amount off of your Ohio taxable income up to $4,000. And those are the parameters here in Ohio that for you to be able to do that. So you can take advantage of that tax benefit.
Another question is asking, the grandparents own the 529 plan for their granddaughter, and they want to know, when she completes the FAFSA, is it better to transfer the 529 to her parents?
Again, talk to your tax advisor about that, but it is with the grandparents owning the account. If those are going to come into play immediately, then it'll have an effect on the FAFSA. If you're in a situation, either as you are considering transferring it to the parents, or if you can wait until the end of the beneficiary's sophomore year, because the FAFSA only looks back a couple years. So then that wouldn't come into play as far as the FAFSA calculations. And so there's a little bit of strategy and planning that needs to come into play on that. So yes, if the grandparents 529 owner-owned account is going to come to play immediately, it's going to factor in a higher rate for the FAFSA than if the parents are owning it at that 5.64%.
There's a question from a gentleman who says he lives in Ohio and his daughter is staying in Florida at an academy where she attends. Again, this person is asking for advice, which we know we can't do, but it says, where should I invest in a 529, Ohio or Florida?
Either one. Again, I hope you'll choose us. You have all the same advantages here. And as we said, that you can certainly pay for her education expenses in Florida if she's going to school. It's good nationwide. Again, I will put up the performance of our accounts and our lineup of investments against any in the country, and we welcome you considering us and again trusting us, but you can certainly use that 529 funds in those educational opportunities in other states, to include Florida's.
Okay. Another question says, if my daughter goes to a college that is not qualified for 529, can we withdraw funds from her 529 account to pay for her college accommodation and boarding without penalty?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because it does need to be an accredited school, well, accreditation credit. I'm sure this is an accredited school, but it has to have that federal code. And wow, those are few on that. So make sure that one, if it does have a federal code, and you're okay. I appreciate the question though about that room and board though, because one, if the education entity has a federal code, you can use your 529 for, but not everybody stays on campus. They stay off campus. And so the rules are for that off campus housing is up to the amount that the education entity would charge for room and board. So you're on campus and you're charged to live in a dormitory, and you have the board expenses on that. Then you move off campus, or you do start off campus. That's the threshold as far as what you can use your 529 funds for. And so if you were audited or that was questioned about it, it was the school charges this for room and board. Here's what we're paying off campus. We have a lease, a rental agreement, and you can use that up to that amount for without penalty on your 529 account.
Okay, thank you. This person is asking, they live in Kentucky. They want to know, where can they find out what their tax advantage is in regards to investing in a Kentucky 529 plan opposed to investing in the Ohio 529 plan?
I would visit your state's 529 webpage. Every state has one. I'm sure if you searched Kentucky 529, it would go to it. It should be on there. If anyone visiting our webpage, it's very clear, what those tax benefits are. You go to the webpage and see what that is. Then I would say get into the comparison of fees and see if what you're saving and the fees that are being charged, if that comes out to an advantage, if you vis-a-vis the tax benefit, what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Another question says, you mentioned the penalties and tax for withdrawing if the beneficiary does not go to college. Is the 10% penalty and tax only on the earnings portion?
Yes, that's correct. It's the earnings portion is what comes into play here. Again, because it was after tax dollars that you invested, you'd already been taxed on those. That would be just a double penalty, so to speak, if that was the case. And so it's just on the earnings.
Okay. Another question says, our son is about to turn 13. Would it still make sense to open a 529 for him, or would another type of investment be recommended?
I never, it's going back to that tree analogy. When's the best time to plant a tree? If you didn't do it 20 years ago, do it today. And so, yes, even we've had individuals approach us about the beneficiaries in high school, and should you still open it? You're getting the tax advantage. Your money is going to grow potentially and better than other savings vehicles. Maybe you don't need those funds in the beginning of that education opportunity. Maybe there's education opportunities that are going to come in later years. And so, one, I urge you to save regardless of what you choose, but it would not be at a disadvantage of going with a 529, even with a 13-year-old.
I think that's it. I also want to say that Ben has been typing as quickly and as fast as he can to help answer these questions. And so if we did not ask your question, please check the chat because Ben has been answering questions as we go along as well.
And please, communicate with us if you have questions or want a specific response. You can email us. Very easy to get in touch with us. As I mentioned, our operations center. If you call and say, "Oh yeah, that guy that's running the agency said this, and I'd like to ask him a more specific question, or can you clarify this?" Please either call us or email us. We'll happily respond. And I know Aaron and Fifth Third would do the same. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning. We really enjoy, and obviously you can pick up our passion about 529. And again, the enemy's loan debt. You just if you can at all avoid that loan debt, or at least reduce the burden of it, this is the way to go. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.